There is something happening right now that you have never once stopped to notice. You are hearing this voice. Sounds enter the ear. Words resolve into meaning. But underneath that simple act, something far stranger is occurring. Something so close to you, so constant, that it never once became an object of attention. There is a seer, there is something seen. And there is a third thing, quieter than both, the actual experience of perceiving happening. Most of us live our entire lives inside only two of these three. We know there is a me in here, and we know there is a world out there, a room, a body that aches sometimes and feels alive sometimes, people we love, people we have lost, the seer and the seen, subject and object. This is the architecture almost every human being unconsciously inherits. I am here, the world is there, and a great distance sits permanently between them. This distance is so fundamental to ordinary experience that most people never question it. It feels less like belief and more like simple, obvious fact. Of course, there is a me. Of course, there is a world separate from me. How could it be otherwise? But notice, even in saying that, something is being left out. Because right now, in this very moment, there is not simply a seer and seen. There is the perceiving itself, the actual texture of this experience happening. Call it presence, call it awareness, call it a felt sense of being alive right now, hearing this voice. This third thing is not the ear, it is not the sound. It is the meeting place where seeing and seen become a single, seamless event. And here is what almost nobody is told. This third thing was never actually separate from either side. Let's slow down here. Imagine the ocean. Picture it completely still at dawn. No wind, no disturbance. Now imagine a single wave rising from its surface. The wave appears to be a separate thing. It has a shape, a height, a beginning and an end. But nothing about the wave was actually separate from the ocean that was producing it. The wave is not in the ocean the same way a stone is in a bucket of water. The wave is the ocean moving. There was never a moment where ocean and wave were two separate substances meeting each other. It only looked that way from a certain angle. This is closer to what is actually happening between you right now and the world you perceive. The seer is not a separate substance peering out at a separate world. The seer and the seen arise together inside a single field of awareness. The way wave and ocean arise together inside a single field of water. There is an old way of describing this that comes from a tradition older than most people believe today. It does not see consciousness and the world as two competing forces, one trying to escape the other, one trying to transcend the other. It sees them as a single reality, wearing two faces. Awareness looking at the world, being looked at. Two expressions. One undivided movement. In that older language, this looking was sometimes called the stillness behind everything. And what is looked at was called the dance, the endless shimmering display of form, sensation, feeling, thought, stillness and dance, not in conflict. The dance was never something the stillness need to escape from. The dance is how stillness expresses itself. Now bring this back to your own life. Bring it back to something simple. A cup of tea in your hands this morning. There was warmth there, the scent rising. There was taste moving across the tongue. In that moment, where exactly did you end and the tea begin? Most of us would say, obviously, I am here, the tea is there. But in the actual moment of tasting, was there really a hard line? Or was there simply one undivided tasting happening? The mind adds the division after the experience. It looks back and says, I tasted the tea. But in the experience itself, before language arrived to carve it into pieces, that there was only tasting, one seamless happening. This is true of every single experience that you have ever had, every sound you've ever heard, every face you've loved, every grief that moved through your chest like weather through an open sky. In the raw moment itself, before thought stopped to say, this is me, that is it, there was only one divided field of experience. So why does it feel so persistently separate? Because the mind has a habit, ancient, automatic, almost impossible to notice while it is happening. It takes the raw, seamless field of experience and immediately splits it. Me here, that there. This habit is not a flaw. It served as an enormous purpose. It allowed the body to survive, to distinguish food from poison, friend from danger, safety from threat. But somewhere along the way, this useful survival tool became mistaken for the deepest truth of what you are. The separation became the assumed foundation of an entire life. And from that single assumption, loneliness was born, longing was born, the quiet, persistent sense that something is missing, that you are somehow locked outside of full participation in your own experience, own existence. There is a story about a wave out in the open ocean, far from the shore. It watched other waves crash against the rocks and disappear. It grew terrified that this is what happens to us. It thought if we rise, we are seen for a moment and then we are gone forever. An older wave passed by and said, "Why do you look so afraid?" The young wave explained, "We end, we disappear." The older wave said gently, "You are not a wave that is going to disappear. You are the ocean for a moment taking the shape of a wave. You were never separate from what you are afraid of. This loneliness, this longing, none of it points to something actually missing. It points to awareness having forgot its own continuity with everything. So what? What would it mean, even for one breath, to stop assuming the division? Not to force unity, not to manufacture some special spiritual state, simply to notice what is already true beneath the habit of separation. Right now, there is sound reaching you. This voice or silence beneath it. Is there truly a you standing apart from that sound, receiving it from a distance? Or is hearing simply happening as one continuous event with no seam anywhere inside it? Stay with that for a moment. Let the question stay open. Don't rush to answer it with the mind. Just notice the seer, the seen, and the perceiving that holds both of them without ever being separate from either. This third thing was never something you needed to find. It was never lost. It was what you have been this entire time. Underneath every story about being separate, underneath every years-long search for wholeness somewhere out there, the search itself was happening inside the very thing being searched for, like a wave swimming across the ocean looking for water, like fire trying to find warmth. The ancient teachers who first mapped this territory were not asking you to leave the world behind. They were asking you to stop pretending you were ever truly outside of it, to meet the world not as something to overcome or escape or transcend, but as the very surface of your own depth, turned outward, shimmering, dancing. Awareness looking, the world being looked at, and the looking itself, the felt aliveness of this exact moment, the undivided event that was never truly actually two. The eye sees everything except the one thing doing the seeing, and the one thing doing the seeing was never separate from anything it has ever seen.